Can you just tell me a little bit about the development process of this movie and how much attention you pay to story?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of the first times where I get sent scripts a lot, and the first time that I picked up a script from a talented writer and read it, and I was like, you know what, there's something here. Like Tom, cared about the structure and the characters, and it jumped off the page to me. And I wanted to take on the challenge. I haven't done anything like this, but just focused on two people. So yeah, I mean, I thought that the intention was already there from the script stage, and then once I get involved, I take my spin on it and give my wealth of knowledge, if you can call it that, to that and bring it to life. And then from there, it's really then pre-production, building that world, and how we approach it and keep being
Can you tell me about the appeal of the idea of creating the illusion of a single shot? It's a very technically accomplished film. This is very, very impressive visually.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was the idea, whether you call it one shot or whether you call it real time. People have said both. That was the sort of intention. And I came up with it. Originally it wasn't going to be that way. It was a traditional movie. And we were doing this during the actors' strike last year. So that took off a lot of people off the table, but also an opportune moment to take and do something while that was happening. So it was my idea to say, everyone's like, well, what are we going to do? We've got no actors, we've got no whatever. I'm like, we'll do it, with these new actors who are new characters that you go on the journey with, but we'll do it as real time, as a one shot. And everyone kind of went, oh, that's interesting. That becomes the talking point. That becomes a character of itself in the movie. So yeah, I mean, look, it was incredibly challenging. I've never done anything like it. Usually you set up cameras and you cut it around, and this one you had to be sort of moving through the caves with them, and that. So it was for the actors as well. It was for all of us. On set, as a director, as an actor, as the cinematography, art department. It's all these long takes. It was like 20, 30, half an hour takes, and if one little thing went wrong, back to the start. It's like.
Now, this film is about two people who find themselves stuck in an underground a tunnel, a cavern, a cave. I don't know if it's meant to be some sort of conduit for technology or whatever, but two people stuck down there while an alien invasion is going on. The very appealing thing about this movie is that you don't have anywhere to cut to. And I just wanted to know, as a director, if that was part of the attraction of this scenario.
Yeah, that was part of the attraction for me, is how to keep it interesting as much as I could without where to cut to. So the camera had to do the movement, and the actors had to do the movement. Everything had to be like a choreography dance.
Right. And the way that the camera drifts through the scene, you're going from faces to technology to the little screens that they have down there to whatever else is down there as well. How tightly is a film like this storyboarded?
Well, because I'm crazy, I all storyboarded in my head. So unfortunately, the crew had to put up with me standing there explaining things. I do little sketches and that, but for me, it's more I stand there during the day, at the opening of each day. I walk people through it, exactly what's in my head. I walk the cameras through it. I walk the actors through it, and everyone just has to follow my lead.
You had no detailed storyboard, shot to shot, sequence to sequence, like many other horror film directors do?
Not in this one, I didn't know.
Okay. Not in this one, you mean as distinct from other films that you've done?
Yeah, in Occupation Rainfall, I use storyboards for the bigger sequences and that. This one was more just straight, sort of unfiltered from my head, straight to the actors and straight to the crew. Okay,
can I just very quickly ask why the difference with this movie regarding storyboards?
Budget. It comes down to budgetary things. This movie was obviously, a lot smaller budget than something like Rainfall, where you need to see spaceships and everything else, and the visual effects component of this one, we sort of did it, as a much tighter pre-production, much tighter shoot, post. So it was more just, I said to everyone, don't worry about that. I'll just straight out of my head.
Okay. Now, Luke, how do you define the audience for this movie?
I think it's anyone who likes movies. I can rattle off a bunch of movies like this one. There's 47 Meters Down, Fall. There's all this like tightly wound, claustrophobic feel where you follow these characters and you don't know what's going to happen to them and how they get out and how you would feel in that position. What would you do?
Well, certainly I've got to say that if you don't have claustrophobia and or fear of the dark before watching this movie, you're going to have it afterwards. It's very effectively directed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Was this film pre-sold to the American market or pre-sold anywhere?
Not when we shot it, no.
Okay. How does it stand at the moment?
It's been sold since then through trailers and that people have been able to see the footage. It's been sold to a number of territories. Not the US yet. I'm sort of holding that till I screen the finished film at the upcoming American film market early next month. Yeah,
but the film is geared to an American market because the characters in it are American.
Yeah, it's definitely geared. That's why I'm holding it to screen the entire film so people can see it in its entirety, because it's such a different way of shooting it. It's hard to make a trailer because it's in a trailer you have to cut and the movie doesn't cut. So people see the trailer and I'm like, well, it's going to be different because you're going to be with it.
How is your production company going?
It's going well. We into that last year, end of last year / early this year, we released Bring Him to Me with Sam Neill. We've done this one, and then I'm in post-production on my next big one, and I'm in early pre-production of my next one. So going well. Can
you just tell us about how you operate in the Australian film context? Do you regard yourself, obviously you are an Australian filmmaker and you are part of the Australian film industry, but you seem to operate as an independent entity. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, whether that I do operate very independently, whether that's by design or by choice or by whatever. I love the Australian film industry. It's why I started making films. And I've had some nice comments along this way from Scurry. Other interviewers saying that they've heard along the grapevine people say, I'm following Luke Sparke's footsteps, younger filmmakers, and if he can do it, I can do it. And that's my biggest thing. If I can do it, why not you? So I'm always out there championing in that. But I pick projects based on what I like, what I think. Like Occupation's based in Australia. This movie's based in America. Another one coming up is not even based on in this world. So, I just look at films not as an Australian eye. I look at it more as international. And I operate, very much a very close-knit crew, and it's all kind of without pissing in my own pocket, but it's all, through me and my vision and how I think we can structure it, because I'm becoming a bit of a known in America as a guy that can make a penny look like $1 on screen, and I don't mind being that way because I like being able to be on set and not micromanage, but I like sort of running the whole show. Like in this movie, I was the production designer of the caves and the whole set. I was the editor. I was the EP. I brought the money in. I produced it with the other guys. So I'm like very much encompassing the entire thing. And not to say that I never want to just be a director, because I just go on. It would be great to go on another shoot and just not worry about that. But that's just how I operate at the moment, and I'm very comfortable living in that space.
There's a Screen Australia logo at the end of the film. Are you able to tell me how much of this film was financed independently and how much came from government funding?
The Screen Australia logo is for the tax rebate, which we don't get till the end because without speaking out of turn, I don't really go through the palaver of going for the provisional at the beginning, which used to take a lot less time. And the way the Screen Australia is right now, and kill me someone who's listening, the way Screen Australia is right now, I'd love to get in there and have a chat with them about how independent artists need to work. I read a story this morning about how another independent director that did a lot himself didn't get through the tribunal to get his rebate. And I think some of that stuff is very, very disgusting when we're all out there really trying to make craft and create worlds. So I don't get the rebates to the end, and the credit is a thank you for that if we get it. So it's more of a future thank you for the rebate department, because we have to go through the process after the film's released on getting the rebate. But all my films are 100% private up front.
Okay. The reason why I asked that, Luke, is because some of the absolute worst Australian films ever made were previewed this year. I've sat through some absolute garbage, and at the end you see all of these logos, principal, investment from the Australian government, all these logos at the end, and I have now scratched my head so much this year. I've nearly gotten down to the skull about how some films get approved. You watch them and the storytelling is so bad and the direction is so bad, and there's all this government funding. I'm starting to think there should be a law that if you have Australian government funding for your movie, you have to declare in the closing credits how much. That's how bad the situation is at the moment. Luke, your reflections on that?
Look, I 100% agree. And I used to not say my piece, but I'm six to seven movies in now of my career, all made here in Australia, all by great Australian artists and actors and everything else. I completely agree with you. I'm 6 movies in, and I'm not on the radar. So, I have no connection, conversations, reach out. I invite people to split my film sets. They don't come, without going too far. That's as much as I'll say, but I completely agree with you.
Okay, it does strike me. I mean, how old are you now, Luke?
How old do I look?
You look like you're in your 30s.
I just turned 40
last
month.
Okay. It's crazy how underrated and underappreciated you are in this country. It is an anomaly that someone who's been able to mount all these productions, going all the way back to Red Billabong, independently, and not get the support or even just the conversations that any other director in any other film industry would be getting. That is how you strike me. You are an anomaly, and I can foresee a time fairly soon where some American studio is going to pick you up for a big film, and it's going to be a hit, and then you're going to turn back and say, I would have liked a more help back then. What do you say?
Well, that happens a lot with Australians, right? You hear that story a lot. Chris Hemsworth, or other people on the news saying, when I was in Australia, didn't get much support. Went to America, support. So I say I agree, and without giving too much away, it might be sooner than you think. Getting a bigger American film. I've made some conversations this year, some waves. So I don't, but I've seen. I can look ahead and see the generation behind me, that some people go to America very quickly, and I've stayed here, and I'm like, I don't want to hope for the next movie. I just like to keep creating. So until that happens, I'll just keep punching out the films and not resting on my laurels. But look, I would love to get involved with Screen Australia, even just from an outside perspective, to say, let's talk about the independence of the Australia, like me and like other people are making movies for like $900,000, $1 million, or whatever they're making it for, and have some perspective to go, maybe you should have a different set of rules, or maybe we should change some things, or maybe we should look at it in a different perspective to try to go, how can we help these people? It's great that they have a 40% overseas location offset that brings in the Hollywood films, that keeps the crew working. I understand that. But what about the filmmakers like myself and others that would just love just that little bit of extra support, without even asking for anything up front, just help maybe get provisionals quicker, or get rebates quicker, or get just anything, rather than it feels like it's just red tape after red tape after red tape, and it's just getting worse. And now the terms and conditions on the Screen Australia, it's all just at their discretion. It used to be, do this, you get it in 8 weeks. Do this, you do it in 8, which is a public government sounding like you should. Now it's all at their discretion, at my discretion. It's like, well, what's your discretion? It just seems crazy that you're just kind of blocking these up-and-coming filmmakers.
What is your approach to narrative, Luke Sparke, in terms of story consistency, in terms of foreshadowing, in terms of structure, whether you have 3 acts or 4 acts? What is your general approach to storytelling on film?
Yeah. Look, I always love the 3-act structure. I always kind of at least look for that when I'm reading something, when I'm writing something. Even when I read it back to myself to go, where is this first act finishing, and blah blah blah. And I do it all the way through the edit process as well. I sort of think about that as the edit, because I think I'm much more editorially inclined than I am a written word. When I write scripts, some people go, I can't see it, and then they see me edit and they go, oh, I get that, that's how you processed it, because I'm more thinking visually. So yeah, there's a good point. I'm much more visual when it comes to things. But reading scripts, writing scripts, definitely 3-act structure, definitely as much foreshadowing and things that I can and bring along. And definitely I like my films, as I think it's kind of obvious now to have a exciting third or even sometimes fourth if I have to act climax, like Rainfall sort of had a bit of a 3 and 4 act. So yeah, I always like my reel 6s. If you go back to the cinema, we used to change the reels. My reel 6, like George Lucas, always has to have something exciting. So I don't think I could even ever end a film on just a nothing. So that's kind of how I look for it when I read or write something.